movers and shakers of India's automobile industry to find out how equipped India is to become the world's preferred manufacturing hub, thereby steering the global economy. So let's take a look at the audiovisual.
The growth accelerator of the Indian economy, India's automobile sector contributes almost 7.5% to India's GDP. As India grows and thrives, can the sector evolve to meet the needs of a billion? Can India become the top global vehicle producer? What roadmap must the industry follow to steer the economy? Today at Republic Media Network's India Economic Summit, we discuss these pressing questions and find out who is in the driver's seat.
To moderate this session, I'd like to invite on stage Suesha Sawant, Special Correspondent and Anchor, Republic Media Network. Our panelists for this session are Mr. Rajiv Chaba, President and MD, MG Motors India. Under his leadership, the marquee brand has successfully introduced 3 products within 18 months of operations, with its products focused on connected, electric, shared and autonomous. Mr. Chaba has held various senior positions with top global automotive brands such as Chevrolet, General Motors, across multiple international markets, including China, North Africa and Egypt. Mr. Chaba has also bagged several awards and recognitions during his illustrious career, including that of Automotive Man of the Year by Autocar Professional 2019, Editor's Choice Award for 2020 by CSR Times, and many more. Joining Mr. Chaba is Mr. Kamal Bali, President and MD, Volvo India. Mr. Bali's illustrious career spans over 4 decades, and prior to working with the Volvo Group in India, he worked with leading Indian and multinational organizations at senior executive positions. He's an active speaker at various national and international fora and holds senior positions such as the chairman of the Swedish Chamber of Commerce India, the past chairman of CII Karnataka, member of the Karnataka Government Vision Group and board member of the Xavier Institute of Management, Bhubaneswar. So it's over to you, Suesha, now.
Thank you so much, and thank you all for being here. A very good afternoon to all our viewers watching from home. And thank you so much to both you gentlemen, honestly, for the reason that I was really looking forward to this conversation. I think we're in such an interesting time, especially when we're talking about the auto industry and how it has evolved in the last 3 decades, especially. The transformation that it has gone through, and for how exceedingly well we are doing. Today, India is on a global ranking of number 4 from where we started 3 decades ago, and we're moving. It's the paradigm shift. Really to understand that today the auto industry that contributes about 7.1% to India's GDP, 49%, Mr. Bali, to India's manufacturing GDP. How has the transformation been, and how is the auto industry steering India towards being a superpower? Yes.
Thanks for inviting me to this forum. I would say, I'll start with a small example. I was in GM for donkey's years, and I worked in many territories across the world. And in 2002-03, we used to make business cases to get multinationals to the country. And that point of time we used to keep selling potential, future potential, kabhi kuch acha hoga. You know, I mean, we used to make business cases, all kind of scenarios and things like that. Now the time has come where we don't have to make a business case to tell about India's potential. So that's very clear. So that's a big transformation. Now obviously the thing is, how do you really can have not only succeed in India, but also can you do something in India for the world? Within automotive also there are lots of areas which I'm sure we'll talk about, where we can do that. So there's a huge opportunity. Obviously I think so from average, I think we have become good. Now from good to great, how do we go? And that's the point we need to discuss.
I have a lot of numbers on me, and which is why I'm trying to keep that less. But the fact, at the rate at which we are growing, and we understand that when we are talking about compact SUVs or two-wheelers or passenger vehicles, it's grown by 10 to 20 times. So really talking about manufacturing in India, and for a company like Volvo, how have things changed?
Yeah, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and thank you Republic TV for having me on this panel. Pleasure to be here with Rajiv. Manufacturing sector and the automotive industry is actually the bellwether of manufacturing industry, as it accounts for almost 45% of the manufacturing sector. And I think it's been growing pretty well. We've had, of course, cyclical numbers in between, but I think today we are producing close to 23 million vehicles, and this is likely to grow at a very quick pace in the coming years. But I think going forward, the interesting part is the growth is going to be not simply in numbers. It's going to be very, very different growth. And whenever we talk about automotive industry, generally the whole discussion gets overshadowed by EV. But EV is just one element of the future, the ongoing automotive or the business of mobility. So let me tell you, there are 5 or 6 things which are going to happen going forward. Number one, alternate energy carriers will come in, which means you could have a battery, you could have hydrogen fuel cells, you can have the current engines using biofuels, non-fossil fuels. So that's the first big shift which is going to happen, which is what we talk about in a big way. The second shift what we are seeing is connectivity, digitalization and automation. That's another very, very major shift. Just to give you, how is this shift going to help? Just to let you know, today if a truck moves, Mr. Agarwal is here, only 10% of the fuel in a truck is used to move cargo. 90% is waste. If somebody can optimize that, at least 90 or 80% of the fuel in a vehicle is used to move cargo or used to move people, imagine the amount of monetization you can do. You can monetize this entire thing. That's a huge, huge opportunity, and I feel India is very well set to actually capture that opportunity. The third is, of course, going to be new transport concepts, which is hub-to-hub movement, and then, of course, last mile connectivity. You will see drones on the last mile connectivity in a big, big way. So I think the future of mobility, just to keep it short, is very bright. It's very transformational. It's not going to be simply today you do 23 million numbers, tomorrow you will do 30, 50, 40. It's not going to be like that. It's going to open a completely new economy, and automotive companies will look like technology companies, because there'll be more of electronics and software inside a vehicle. So it's interesting times, and I can tell you, India is really, really poised for a big opportunity. I was in Gothenburg last week, and as Rajiv said very rightly, normally I am always welcomed and saying, oh well, India, I think the potential is very good. I mean, potential is always very good, but we never perform up to a potential. But today, people are saying, you are the guys who are actually performing on ground. And rest of the world is actually looking at it. And they're really, really looking forward to India actually winning now. Because I think India is the bet for rest of the world.
You know, from what you're saying, and Mr. Chaba, we were talking outside on how it is very important to be solution oriented, especially given how the market is functioning at this point, and how when the government, very clear in its intent of Make in India, I really want to understand for foreign players, for Indian players in the market right now, especially with in 2017, India having brought the Automotive Mission Plan 2026, how reforms have been eased for the industry, and most importantly, the role that your companies are playing, and for the Indian manufacturers as well. How achievable is this mission?
So I would say that, like I'll continue from where I left, that, the enablers are getting in place now. The policy is getting in place. The intent is there, and now few things we need to do. We all are proud Indians here, but sometimes we suck in execution. right? We talk a lot, we don't execute well. So I think that execution needs to improve. And the second thing is I would say that, and I keep giving this example that in a small company like ours, where we have only 2,000 employees, there are so much of dynamics within the company, and it's difficult to manage lots of things within a 2,000 company. When you are 1.4 billion population, and if the CEO of the country, just imagine the kind of things he needs to do. So it takes time. It's a mammoth task. But one thing which I feel very strongly about our country is that our machinery, the decision-making machinery, has to be part of solution. The mindset has to be that how can I help you and how can I solve this problem? That mindset is taking time to change. And I think that is one important thing. It starts with training of all the guys in the decision-making machinery of the government. So that's very important, and then the execution is important. I'll give you one or two examples. As part of my career, I was posted in China in 2011 when I was in GM. So we were working with a joint venture partner there. So there in 2011, they were talking about how do we meet the emission criteria of 2020. And it was not just a talk on paper. It was a pure execution plan in 11 for 2020. Also I remember the way that some good aspects of that country, that, if you are not able to sell cars, or the economy, or suppose the country's target of a GDP is 8%, even the Shanghai province is given a target. Within Shanghai province, your locality is given a target. And within that locality, if your company falls, the whole machinery is trying to help you to produce more and sell more. So the whole concept is about solution, that if this is the country's target, it becomes the target for everyone. So that mindset, I think we need to change in this country, in our country. But otherwise the intent is there, enablers are getting in place, digitization, we all should be very proud of, and to some extent thanks to COVID also, we are leapfrogging in digitization, and I will just take one word from him. I would say even in auto, coming to our industry, in auto industry, I think it's the auto tech. Frankly, we can be a global leader for sure.
In fact,
just to add to that, I think the ability to really lead, the ability to dream, even in the automotive sector, just like our young Turks you saw in the last session, I think it's happening even in the manufacturing sector today. Today, let me tell you with tremendous pride that India is the first country to produce green casting. We are talking about a sustainable world, zero greenhouse gas emissions. The first country to produce green castings for engines is India, and this was done just about 2 months back, and this is going to be exported completely. Today, 8-liter and 5-liter engines are being produced only in India for Volvo Group, and is exported to all across Volvo Group. So these were things which were not happening earlier. We never dared to think like that. I think the last few years, I think people have started thinking, people have started delivering, and I think that's the major shift what I see. We always talked of potential, now we are talking of performance. And I think that's the major shift which I see.
in fact, Mr. Bali, you were sharing that the challenges, typically the mindset would be that in the auto industry, it would be manufacturing related challenges that the industry is facing. But now you also say that with the changing times, it's connectivity, automation, data privacy challenges. So these are newer challenges that the industry is facing. And again, we were talking about the government's intent, and how Nitin Gadkari has also gone on to say that the idea of German auto giants setting up joint ventures, which again you had mentioned, collaborations, for establishing vehicle scrapping units, this will also bring down the costs of spare parts. So that will again make the market a lot easier, both for the maker and the consumer.
Absolutely, and I think one of the things which is coming out clearly from this is that the era of collaborations and partnerships has started. Because no one company in the new business models in the automotive industry, no one company will be able to provide a 360-degree solution to the customer. So therefore, the era of collaborations, partnerships with startups has started. In the last 3 years, we have partnered with 8 companies, which 3 years back I couldn't have said that we would have partnered. We have partnered with our competitor Daimler. to make hydrogen fuel cells, right? That's the first one. We have partnered with another company, our competitor, to do the charging infrastructure in whole of Europe. We partnered with Samsung for batteries. We partnered with NVIDIA for autonomous solutions. So I think the era of partnerships and collaborations has started, and I think it's a humbling experience for large companies, but I'm very happy that this is an era where you will bring in a lot of startups. Startups will come in if they have a good solution, and I think that is where India can stand out, and that's a great opportunity to my mind.
Mr. Chaba, I want to bring the point of startups also for the reason that, the government has set aside a budgetary outlay of more than 25,000 crores for production-linked incentive schemes for the automobile industry, primarily to create jobs, for job growth, for supply chains, and also how you were talking about startups helping with the whole process of now EVs, for example, and at a time when it is growing at such a fast pace. How are you incorporating startups and helping with job creation?
This is one topic where I can take hours and hours, but I'll keep it short. So much before we launched our first car, MG Hector, which is a connected car, we started working with startups, with Startup India and with TAI. We wanted to make sure that technology innovation becomes one of our #1 pillar for the brand, for the MG brand. So far we have worked with almost 800 startups in the last 6 years. We have mentored and hand-holded 46 of them. A few of them have gone ahead to raise lots of funds now. In fact, 3 days back we launched our MG Development and Program, Grant and Development Program with Startup India in IIT Delhi. The good part is now that when you work with the startups, some of these youngsters also work as reverse mentors for your employees, and also you get to know what's latest, what's happening. So it's not only on the product side, but on the manufacturing processes side, the people side. In fact, some of the chatbots we got through these startups, which we are using in our call center now, so a whole lot of stuff is happening. So this is again our strength of the country, because lots of guys are coming in this area. Also, important thing is that how do you nurture the talent within the universities, to make sure that they go more towards entrepreneurship and startup rather than, like in my generation, doing jobs, and they're also, like, we have tied up with many companies now, with many universities now. We have in fact tied up with almost 30 colleges. And very simple thing, if somebody's in the auto probably can use this. We have to scrap lots of tested cars, right? Because you can't bring those cars on the road. So what we are saying is, why do you scrap the cars? Make it little bit better. They cannot be driven, but you give it to engineering colleges, diploma colleges, ITIs. So the latest EVs, what we are producing, ZS EV, which is not a cheap car, it's 26 lakhs of rupees. It has got the world's latest technology. I would like to claim is the best EV on the road right now in that price band. I mean, we are giving it to colleges, to diploma colleges, ITI, so that they can do reverse engineering, they can learn, and they can accelerate their thing. So lots of such stuff is happening now. Also, on EV side, the biggest potential remains that India-specific solutions, and which we can export also to likewise countries. Also, one important thing, that the kind of new jobs which are getting generated in EV, which may be interesting, so we didn't know how to provide charging solutions, charging infrastructure solutions to residents, because in India all kinds of things are there. You are in a condominium, you have RWAs, you are parking the cars on the road, so you need different kind of charging solutions. So we have encouraged startups for the last mile connectivity on charging. They are employing some retired guys from distribution companies. They are employing electricians. Now, I mean, normally you will not relate them to auto industry, but that's the kind of a new way of employment, So now we are trying to support a lot of young guys who should be electricians to help EV solutions, So that's the kind of a thing is happening, which is pretty interesting. So it's all thanks to nurturing of students in colleges, startups, and these kind of new startups which we are supporting in this new EV era.
I want to talk to you more about EVs, and that is not something Mr. Badi is very gung-ho about. But then again, when we are talking about Make in India, I know. Then again, when we are talking about Make in India and the ease of doing business and the intent of the government, like we were saying, because we also understand that today the Indian automobile industry stands at 7.8 lakh crores. Exports, like you mentioned, stands at 3.5 lakh crores. And, like Nitin Gadkari has said, that the dream really in the larger plan is to make it an industry of 15 lakh crores, boosting exports by many, many levels. Are we really around that time or working in that pace to achieve that target?
Yeah, I think, Suresh, 3 or 4 things are happening there. I think, number one, we are very under-penetrated when it comes to automotive sector in India. Maybe in many areas with comparable countries, we are 1 by 10th, fraction. So that's a good news in a way because we are nowhere near saturation. So that's the first piece. The second piece is that government is supporting with the PLI scheme. Now that's a very interesting element. This is a big one, which actually is going quite unnoticed. And this PLI scheme is not to do more of the same. This PLI scheme is to bring in new technologies because PLI is applicable only to new technologies. So with PLI schemes, a lot of anchor investors are going to come into India. You will see the who's who of the world when it comes to automotive sector, both at component level manufacturing as well as vehicle level manufacturing are already here, but more are going to come in. So I think that's the second thing. The third piece is that things like hydrogen fuel cells are going to be built here. Government has started a hydrogen mission. We are part of it. And I think there's a huge amount of consultation going on. I think that's going to be a big opportunity again. So I believe there are 3 or 4 pathways when it comes to electric vehicles or to say alternate fuels. One is electric vehicles with batteries. Other one is with using hydrogen fuel cells, or you could be using hydrogen as a fuel on the same IC engine, or you could be using biofuels using the same IC engine. So there are many opportunities, different pathways. I believe the 2-wheelers and the 3-wheelers will go very quickly. The battery route, the lithium-ion battery, for long-haul transport, for trucks and heavy duty, it will be hydrogen with a combination of batteries to some extent. And also there will be biofuels which are non-fossil in nature which will be used. So to my mind, number of opportunities and we are all working very closely with the government, whether it is the vehicle scrappage policy. I think the mission of the government or the vision to become net zero by 2070 is a very big statement in itself. Now it's quite an unwieldy thing to really decode how net zero will happen. So I think that's something very interesting, and I think government and all the actors in this game are all pretty much aligned, and I think we can see a direction going forward.
And yes, please.
If I can just add on to this export part and the job creation part. See, there's a statistics which says that if you produce 1 car in the country, it creates around 14 jobs, direct and indirect, right? So that's why it's almost 40 million people are employed in the auto industry. And if you look at the export of components, like, there are lots of good Indian companies exporting to even Teslas of this world, right? So, and then you have IT companies, all the top 5 IT companies, they are providing IT solutions to, I think, everybody in the world. So we have established certain things. So now you need to look at what are the future trends globally and how do you take, in terms of exports, how are you in the forefront of those areas which are exportable. So from my perspective, connected car, autonomous and an EV is the future where like all the multinationals are spending their money right now. So from India side, I feel very strongly that, like India needs a specific solution of the battery, considering the thermal situation and stuff like that, and also like, the recycling of battery, and we are, and the whole life cycle management of battery. If a battery in a world can work for 10 years, we Indians probably would like to work it for 16 years, 20 years, because we recycle everything. You remember, you may not remember, some of the guys remember that we used to keep shopping bags under the mattress. We sell old newspaper, we sell old beer bottles. This whole recycling, we don't throw away anything. till it gets wasted. So like a battery, can we extend the life of the battery? Because then you come to the questions of raw minerals are not available and blah, 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 energy security. So the whole solution by Indians on longevity of the battery life, maybe we can use old batteries in rural electrification, things like that. This idea and this technology can be exported to all emerging markets like Middle East, Africa, Latin America. Because Europe and America will not be working on solution for those countries. We will work for specific solution for India, which can be exported. Likewise, connected car. I would like to dream on this thing. When I was young, I used to talk about, can you give a phone free? And then you will charge for services. And probably it's kind of thing happening. So I'd see a world which India can do, car is free, but you will charge for various services. So car will be used as a platform, and then you say, okay, if you want to drive the car for 1 week, I'll charge this much, and insurance this much, resale price this much. And if you want to use the data, which already we are doing in MG, that some data is free, and high-end data for the high-end services for streaming music and everything, you have to pay extra. So actually there can be various charges, and so this solution will be great for Indian consumers, which are value-conscious customers, and this can be exported, this whole technology. So this connected car, because we are strong on IT anyway, so if we use it in this auto and make it auto tech, that is a huge potential.
And especially for a company like MG, where you're looking at a surge of almost 138% when it comes to the EV segment, and which is why I want to ask you that the passenger vehicle market is moving like never before in terms of the way the demand is surging. Today we are in an India where probably in the metropolitans, in a family of 4, there are 3 cars in one house. And again, the buyer is the youth between the age group of 25 to 35, nice corporate salaries of about 80,000 to 90,000 rupees, and a car being a necessity. Given how you're moving in terms of innovation and also having a sustainable technology, how do you see consumerism evolving in the next decade?
See, so I still believe, we don't talk more about Uberization and at this point of time because of COVID it went down. But frankly, all consumers accepted that idea of sharing. And this will come back. Because of COVID, probably it has gone the back seat right now, because due to obvious reasons. But I think in a 1 year's time, 2 years' time, post-COVID, I think it should come back. So shared mobility is the way to go. And globally, people accepted it, and we in India also welcomed it, right? So with that, see, again, there are 2-3 aspects we are talking about, because, on one hand, it's a good idea that you have 20-30 cars penetration of 1,000, which is low because our roads are bad. But if the roads improve, which are improving right now, you can have more penetration, and we have pollution issue also. But if you have the good energy source for energy, cleaner energy for energy, and that EVs, I think that should take care of the pollution too, to some extent, emissions. So I think shared mobility is the solution. Consumerism, I want to throw some examples, and you can judge for yourself. When we launched our first car, the Hector, and we said connected car, guy said, what do you mean by connected car? So we said internet inside. Okay, internet inside. So what do you mean by that? And lots of guys were, again, I'm not bitching about competition, but I'm saying the solutions were available in the country. But it was as simple a decision that if you put an industrial SIM card, Airtel ka ya Jio ka SIM card, if you put in a car, who will pay for that? So because of that lack of decision, the card was not put. So we said, listen, let's put the card right now, and let's give the data free for 5 years. After that, we'll find out how it has to be done. Like EV, our second car was EV, and that point of time, guys said, why are you launching EV? So consumers are ready. Connected car, if you are launching any car above 10 lakhs of rupees, has become price of entry now. So that's how the consumer's mentality has changed. So our consumers are ready for good solutions at good value. Problem was from us, from OEMs, from manufacturers, that we were not providing, and still now we are not providing the best solutions for consumers, in my opinion. Again, it doesn't mean that it will change 100% to EV, it will change 100% to connected car, but there is a substantial chunk, where people want to experiment. They have global aspirations, they want globally best practices and products in our country, provided you can provide a good, compelling value.
I believe Mr. Bali wants to make a point.
No, not on this. I'm generally very bullish on the India story, because I'm very excited with the rebalancing of global value chain, which is happening, almost $4 trillion of manufacturing is shifting out of existing countries. Even if 10 to 20% shifts to India, we can double our manufacturing or triple our manufacturing to almost $1.5 trillion. And that's the story. And if $1.5 trillion is going to be overall manufacturing, obviously automotive industry is also going to get a big stake. So I think the future, maybe the next 3 or 4 decades, belong completely to India. And the reason is very simple. The per capita, which is today 2,200 or 2,500, moves to 7,500 by the end of 2030. Imagine the kind of consumerism, the amount of disposable income which is available. That's the simple story which everybody will understand. Yeah.
And as much as I had a lot more to ask, but there is the time constraint. Having said that, we are closing this on a very good note, and certainly the auto industry in the driver's seat to move towards making India a superpower. Thank you so much, gentlemen, and thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chaba, Mr. Bali, and Suesha. Ladies and gentlemen, India is booming with opportunities, and you've been hearing that being said right through the day. Opportunities for foreign investors to pledge their money for steady growth. The world today is bullish on the India growth story, and we have the resources, we've got the potential, we have the youngest and brightest minds to take the country to insurmountable heights. Bharat is clearly heading to the Amrit Kal and is becoming unstoppable, with unicorns becoming decacorns in just a span of a year. With businesses thriving in diverse sectors, the time to unleash our true potential is now. And that sets the stage for our next guest, a parliamentarian, cabinet minister, and a nationalist who is bullish on India becoming the powerhouse driving global growth by 2047. So without any more delay, I'd like to invite Shri Piyush Goyal, Honorable Minister of Textiles, Commerce and Industry, Consumer Affairs and Food and Public Distribution, Government of India, to join us today for a special address on Mission Superpower Unleashing India.
I would truly have been delighted to be a part of the summit in person, but I'm traveling to Gujarat tomorrow morning and I'm unable to be with you, but I assure you that the next time you have a summit, I'll be there, and I'm sure this summit also will be a grand success. I have always held the conviction that India, given its demographic dividend, given the ability of our young boys and girls, the skill sets that they possess, the young aspirational India, where 1 billion plus people now connected with the world through digital technologies wants all the good things of life for them and their families, and India, which is powered equally by our farmers, becoming the food bowl of the world, as much by our laborers, providing us strengths in manufacturing,